Hi friends, Tiffany here. Welcome to my quilting life. So recently I made up a pattern and I'm here to share it with you guys. So I showed this quilt right here on my channel as a, hey, this is what I did and this is what we will be doing. So in today's video, we will be making this and the bonus project. So this is the double hexagon quilt and we're going to be making this, but you can use 2 fat eighths bundles, or a 24 fat eighth bundle, or you can use a 12-piece fat quarter bundle. It's always going to come out this size, but if you use more fabrics, obviously you can make more rows and make it bigger. But this is a 55 by 44 inch quilt. And the little side project is, I think it's 25 by 45. I'm not 100% sure about those measurements, but I will tell you when the video comes into play how big it actually ends up. You will need a ruler, a special ruler here. So I have the large So Easy 60-degree triangle ruler. It is so hard to see this thing. Here you go, right there. So there it is. It's a 60-degree triangle ruler. This makes everything go so much bigger. And this one, if your triangle ruler has up to 8 inches or more, that's a plus because that's the size that we're cutting is 8 inches. And you'll find out all the measurements and numbers throughout the video. But the 8-inch mark is what we're looking for. I do, however, show you in this video how to cut without this, just so that we know how to do it without the ruler, but it's best with the ruler. So if you have a 60-degree triangle ruler, a large one, then that will help this process go by so much faster for both the big quilt and the leftover quilt. So without further ado, let's get to making the double hexagon quilt and its best friend. All right, are you guys ready to make the double hexagon? So what we need is 12 fat quarters. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 12 fat quarters to make the double hexagon. Let's get these pressed and ready to cut. Now that they're pressed, we are going to stack them up, and I'm going to go ahead and do what I'm comfortable with, which is multiple layers. So I'm going to do 2 piles of 6, since this is a 12-piece bundle. And for those that are curious, this is actually Bedrock Whistler Studios by Wyndham Fabrics. That's what it's called, Bedrock. So I'm going to go ahead and stack up 6 of them. I'm lining the selvages up on 6 of them. So you can see on the screen how skewed most of these have gotten if you line up the selvage. So we're going to get ready to cut into some cuts so that we can start sewing. Okay, so like I said, they are kind of funky at the start. So what I'm going to do so that this is not in my way is move that over. We're going to slide this over, and I'm going to take and line my selvages up with a line on the mat, and then the sides I'm going to all make sure cover one of the lines on the mat. So we're going to work with, we'll just work with the 10. All right, so we want all these to cover that 10 line. So it does not look like it right there. There it is right there. Is this covering it? It sure is. Is this covering? It sure is, all the way down. This one is not close. So I need to come over about right here making sure that all of one side is covering a line so I can use that line on my mat as my start. So everything's nice, flat. Grab yourself a ruler, and we're going to make our first cut, which is straightening this out and wasting a pretty good chunk of this fat quarter. So just know that if your fat quarters aren't straight, you could do them one at a time and not waste as much. But I'm going to do this in bulk for video's sake. All right. First amount cut off. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our ruler and we're going to come over 4 1/4 inches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 1/4. 4 1/4. Just like that. Oops. I left a little of my strength behind. 4 1/4. And I made one cut. We're going to make a second cut at 4 1/4. 4.25. So there's my second cut at 4 1/4. So we're just going to slide these over. The next cut is, you guessed it, 4 1/4. 4 1/4. Slide it over and one more cut. That's it. That's right. 4 1/4. So there's my 4 1/4. Ooh, I knew it didn't hit right there. There we go. All right. So all of those have been nicely cut. So I'm just going to go ahead and stack them over there. We're going to take that second pile. We're going to open it up. Just going to re-smooth it back out. We're going to line it up on a line. And again, we're going to use a line on the cutting mat to straighten everything up, making sure all of these are crossing that specific line on the mat for our first cut. Okay. I got it where I want it. I'm going to line my ruler up. I'm going to make that first cut to straighten all of these fat quarters up. And guess what we're going to cut? That's right. 4 1/4. We're going to cut 4 1/4 inch strips. 4 1/4. Oop, oop, oop. Don't let that happen. They like to do that on me. I'm little tiny. I do have imperfections like crazy in my cutting mat, so it's time to flip it to the other side, but just haven't done it yet. All right, 4 1/4. Slide it over. 4 1/4. And last but not least, one more 4 1/4. 4 1/4. And there we have it. It is all chopped up. Now here is the fun part. We're just gonna take these stacks and we are going to play the mix and match game. I tend to do that often with my patterns, is play mix and match. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab two colors that are opposite of each other. And I'm going to start with one of each when it comes to my same colors. So my dark pink and my light pink, we're going to pair those up. And then we're going to go to the next ones, which is my dark orange and my light orange. I'm going to go ahead and pair those up. Then we're going to go ahead and grab my dark yellow and my light yellow and pair those up. We're going to move on over here to my dark green and light green. We're going to pair those up. We're going to go to my dark blue and my light blue, pair those up, and my dark purple and light purple, and pair those up. So now that I have one of each of those pairs, now it's time to just have fun with them. So I can take this green and this yellow and pair these two up. Then I can take this light color and pair it with this dark blue. And there's a pair right there. Then I could take this dark yellow and this light pink and pair those two up. So you get the point. I'm going to go ahead and put you in fast forward while I make a bunch of pairs. All right, so now that they're all paired up, two opposite colors, it doesn't matter if it's dark, light, whatever. I just did that in the beginning couple pieces so that each color has its own matchy color. But the rest of them are all paired into twos. You're going to have a ton of piles, and we're going to go ahead and throw some thread down. That's right, we're going to take these over to the machine and put a lot of stitches down. Let's go to the machine. So let's put some stitches down. Here is my seam tape. The red center is the center. The two black lines are my 1/4 inch seam. I have lined up my magnetic seam guide on the 1/4 inch line. So it's nice and lined up. I'm going to go ahead and take these sets of twos, and from the selvage side, I'm going to go ahead and put them together, right sides together, and we're going to line them up, and we're going to sew on down. You can go ahead and have yourself about a 2 to 2.5 inch, 2 to 2.5 millimeter stitch length. And we're just going to chain piece every single set. And what I mean by chain piecing is leaving this on the machine. We're going to put these two right sides together, just like this, and we're going to sew these ones in next without breaking thread. I'm not pulling or tugging. I am just letting the machine take them through, and I'm holding them nice and straight on top of each other. Just holding them, keeping that 1/4 inch seam consistent. Whether or not you use a seam guide, I cannot follow the line for the life of me, so I use the seam guide. So I'm going to go ahead and put you in fast forward while I sew all of these pairs together. now that they're all sewn into pairs, we're going to take these over to the ironing board, and with all of the selvage on one side, each one of them, I'm going to go ahead and just press them up. So that's what I'm going to do. So I shall be right back. Now they are complete. Next thing is to make sure they all came out 8 inches. They should have came out 8 inches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 inches. That is the measurement we are looking for from every single one of these. So we have a ton of piles. The next thing we're going to do is take one pile at a time, because, well, you can do 2 piles at a time if you want, but we're going to do 1 pile at a time. And I'm going to line it up right here on my mat at a line on either side, just like that, so I know it's nice and straight. I'm also going to, since I pieced all the selvages on the same side, I'm also just going to make sure that they pass a line. And we're going to start cutting these up. Now for this project, it would be nice if you had a 60-degree triangle. This is the So Easy laser cut 60-degree triangle. But if you don't have one, I'm going to show you, whoa, I hate when that light shows up in there. I'm going to show you how to either use a hexagon ruler. If you have a little hexagon, this is the biggest one I have, I think. Or if you have a small equilateral 60-degree triangle, if you have a small one, we could still use that. Or with just a regular square ruler. I'm going to show you how to make these cuts. And if you don't have any of those and you just have a regular long ruler, we can do it with this as well. So we're going to start out by cutting off the selvage. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my ruler because it's got a straight edge, and I did line up right here, and I'm going to cut that selvage away. The first thing I'm going to do with my 60-degree ruler is I'm just going to line it up right here, just like this, where my center on this ruler, I have a center, and that center has red lines. It has one solid on each side and a dash one down the center. I'm actually going to put the outer side, or the left-hand side of that dashed line, so the 1/2 inch away line on this mat, and I'm going to line that 8-inch mark down here. I'm going to line up 8-inch mark, and then I'm going to line up this side right here on that red line, and it wants to just wiggle and squirm. And I'm going to go ahead and make a cut. So I have this half triangle piece. We want these to be saved. So we're going to go ahead and put that aside. My first cut is going to be this direction. We're going to line up that 8-inch line on the line right here. We're going to line up this side right here. And we're going to make our first cut just like that. So there's one cut. And then we're going to turn the ruler around and make our second cut. We're only going to get 3 of these cuts right here. We're going to line up the side, line up the bottom, make the cut. I am in an awkward angle here because of the tripod. And we're going to do it one more time this direction. We're going to line up the 8-inch mark. We're going to line up our side just like this. And if it doesn't land exactly on 8 inches, that is okay. As long as the point is up here and there's a straight line down there, we're going to make that cut. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over to this side, and with that same 60-degree ruler, I'm actually going to line up the point right here and that outer left side with this sideways line like this, and I'm going to go ahead and make a cut. So I have an opposite piece of that original one that we cut to start with. This one and this one, just like this. These pieces we're going to need when we piece this together, but they're also going to be for a bonus project at the end. So go ahead and just make 2 piles of those and set those aside. And then you're also going to take all 3 of these and we're just going to stack them together and set them aside in pairs of 3. So we're going to make all stacks of 3. And then we have our garbage. And then this could also be used with our bonus project. So I'm just going to put that up and out of the way. Now, if you don't have this ruler, and say you have a smaller version, we're going to go ahead and do this with the smaller version. Just know that with the smaller version, you will also need a secondary ruler. So we're going to go ahead and line this up. Again, I'm just going to pass the selvages just like this on a line. I'm going to go ahead and cut those off, making it nice and straight, just like this. And we're going to take our first cut is a 1/2 inch over. We don't have those markings on here. So what I'm going to do is line this ruler up until, right here, this comes to the 1/4 inch mark up there, just like this. You see that? So this angle is now there. This is my 60-degree angle. So we're going to go ahead and hold that in place. And we're going to make cut A. So you can see there's our first piece. We're going to stick that aside in its pile. And then we're going to go ahead and make our first cut, which is this ruler to this point. So what we're going to do is 2 rulers can do this. You're holding your ruler right here, and you're going to hold this along this straight line right here. And you're going to say, well, this is how it goes. It's touching the tip right here at this bottom. So I know I have a 60-degree angle because this right here does not have a 60. I have 2 45s on this one. So there's a different ruler that has the 60. And due to the fact that this is a left-handed cutting way, doing it like this, I'm going to go ahead and just grab a left-handed cutting ruler. If you turn your pieces around, you can cut right-handed, obviously. But I am filming, so I need to cut the opposite. So now we're going to go ahead and repeat. We're going to place this right here. And place this right here on the corner. Line it up on the line, making it nice and straight. Go over just a little bit more. There we go. It's straight down here. It's touching the tip right here. So this is my angle that I need. We're going to go ahead, move this one out of the way, hold this one down, and make that cut. So there's the next one. Last but not least, we're going to put this in the corner again, bottom tip. We're just going to line this up again along the bottom. We're going to put this up against it and slide it till the tip touches here, and this stays nice and straight right here. Slide it over a little, nice and straight right. Hold on. I'm kind of backwards here. It's straight along here, and now that's there, and the point is touching here. We're going to go ahead. Oops, it shifted just a smidge. There we go, right there. Move that out of the way. Make the cut just like that. So those 3 pieces should be exactly the same as these 3 pieces. So you can see if I lay them on top of each other, they're exactly the same size, so you can cut with 2 rulers that way. We're going to cut that little end piece off now. We're going to go ahead and make a nice straight cut. I'm going to line this corner up on the 1/4 inch line on my ruler and a straight line at the bottom. So I'm just going to go over just a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, probably like 3/8 of an inch. Just like that, because we want room at that top. And there that is. And then here's my other extra piece for the bonus project. So there's the 2 ruler way. the hexagon way. So using a half hexi, or you can use half hexi too. Using a full hexagon, we're going to do the same thing, but I'm going to show you with one of the already cut pieces how this is going to work. This hexagon will fit like this. So you can see my hexagon, this one especially, is not the correct size, so I might not get the perfect angle. So I'm actually going to forgo on cutting with this one, but you can see that the hexagon meets up, oops, right here, with two of the sides and sort of along the bottom. It's kind of long, but you can see that there's a hexi within this piece. I'm going to not use this one to cut it because it's not the right size, but just know that you can cut them out the same way with butting up the small ruler. You would just cut, lining up on one side, making sure your bottom is there, and then you would do the same with your point on the opposite side, making sure your top is touching the point and you're lined up on the bottom, just like that. So you can see, you can still cut with it, but I'm not going to because I don't want to mess anything up. The next piece that you can use to cut is a regular square ruler. So we're going to use a regular square ruler. We're going to grab our next one. We're going to put it in front of you so that you can see. We're going to line it up on the two lines on the mat. I'm going to start off by keeping it straight. I'm going to use my Quilter Select ruler, so it needs to be laid on top of the line at the right spot because it does take the fabric with it. It is a very good ruler. All right, so we have our first cut. So we're going to look for the 60. There's the 60 on here. We're going to line that 60 up with, where are we at? Right here. The line on that I just cut, but because I'm cutting the fronts, the first piece, and this square ruler is not big enough either, but I'm going to line that 60-degree marking on the little bit past the 1/4-inch seam. I'm going to have to butt up a second ruler for that first cut. You can see this square is not big enough. You probably need, say, a 12.5-inch square, which let me see if I have one because I want you guys to see this. All right, so here's my 12.5. We're going to find that 60, and I'm going to line that 60 now right here like this. And I have a 1/2 inch up here, so I'm just going to slide it down just a smidge because I don't need that much hanging over. And we're going to line that 60 up, make that first cut just like that. And you can see here's my first piece. I'm going to put that aside for the bonus project, and we need them for this. Then we're going to put the 60 right here on the side we just cut. We're going to put that point up here, just like this. I need my ruler to be flat. We want my point right up here, my 60 right down there. And we're going to make that cut. I really need to make sure it's hard to see it right there. There's the point. There we go. So we're going to make that cut. So there's piece 1. I'm going to rotate it. I want my 60 again for this direction right here. We're going to line this top point up right here. This is the only thing about these rulers is you have a lot of different points, a lot of different ways to turn the ruler. So it might get a little confusing. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And then our last one, again, we're lining up the 60. It's going to go which way? Hold on. Takes me a second to figure this one out. There we go, right here. 60. It's going to go on this side again. We're going to go ahead and line it on there. Line it on there. It's touching the point right here. And we're going to cut that. So there's our next one. And our last and final piece, I'm just going to bring this close so that I can see. I'm going to line my 60 up right here. And I'm also going to line it up touching about right there. Right there and right there. So it's on this line. I got a little bit hanging over because I need that little bit. So this is going to go in my pile. And that's going to go in my pile. And these should be exactly the same size as the previous. So let's lay a previous one on there and make sure. And look at that. Exactly the same size. So you can do it with any ruler, but I highly recommend, if you feel like you like this pattern enough and you want to make more than one, I would say invest in a nice big, this one's a 12-inch, 60-degree triangle. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and put you in fast forward while I chop up all of this, the whole and every single one of these, exactly in those same cuts. There'll be 3 triangles, 2 end pieces, and then a nice straight sliver at the end. So again, we're just going to go ahead and start off by doing our triangle, always to this side. Okay, so you're going to straighten this up, and your first triangle is, or your first half triangle is going to go always towards the left. Then you're going to do your 3 triangles, and your last one is going to go towards the right. And then you'll have a nice straight piece after that. So I'm going to put you in time lapse while I put all that together. All right, so now that we have chopped everything up, all of our sets are chopped up, we are going to take these in sets of 3. That's why I had you keep your colors together. And we're going to lay them out just like this. So you're going to see 2, 3, like this. Just like that. And you're going to see that the seam is pressed up towards this blue. So that means right here is going to nest with right here, and right here is going to nest with right here. When we put these right sides together to sew them, you're going to see that the seams are going in opposite directions of each other. So we're going to go ahead now and take every single one of these sets of 3, and we're going to be sewing them together. So we're going to take this, and we're going to take this one, this. We're going to be sewing them together in sets of 3, keeping your colors together. Now, if you want to mix your colors up, that's up to you. But the pattern that I designed is keeping the 3 color sets together. So that way, when you put 2 color sets together like this, you'll have your, oops, I'm sorry, I hit the camera. You'll have your opposite effect is what's going to happen. This is pretty much the design of things. And this is how everything's going to lay out. So we're going to be putting our sets of 3 together, and we're going to do that with every single one of these stacks. So let's go ahead and make sets of 3. So if you've never sewed triangles before, what we're going to do is stick one aside. We're going to take these first 2 triangles and put them right sides together. We're going to be nesting this seam right here, lining up this point here and this point here, and we're going to sew along that. Now remember, it is a bias edge, so be careful not to stretch, pull, tug, any of it. Now this is personal preference, which way you would want your seams pressed. A lot of people press triangles or hexagons or any of that stuff open. I just press them to one side or the other. So these I'm just going to finger press to the right. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this, and this piece right here is opposite. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it on this side. And this time it's going to nest, line up at the bottom, nest in the middle, and since I pressed it to the right, this top point right here, which would have been this piece sticking out, is going to match right up right there. And that is now going to be a perfectly pointed corner. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this under. I'm going to nest my seam, hold the end, and sew it through. And again, I'm going to finger press this one towards the right, just like this, all the way down to that bottom point. So it is all pressed to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside because that one is done and show you again. So we're going to take the first two, say you're going to do it this way, we're going to do the first two, and this was the last one right here. You can move this one out of the way for a second, do these two. So line them up, nest that middle seam. They should be exact. We're going to put it under here and sew from the corner. My seam is nested. Again, I'm going to finger press this one right here to the right, and you're going to see that my point now is sticking out to the right. So that means when I put this one on here, you're going to see that now it's sticking out the total opposite direction. So you can see my point is going to stick out the 1/4 inch up here, and my other point is sticking out a 1/4 inch on that side. That is perfectly fine. So no matter which way you piece it, as long as you are nesting your center seams, everything should line right up. It doesn't matter which one you want to press first, but try to, or not press, sew first, but try to stay consistent with the way you're sewing them. So there I have it pressed there. I'm going to again press this towards the right. Just like that. And you can see this way versus the other. This one, I have all of my seam points sticking out, as opposed to this one, I have no seam points sticking out. It's a nice flush bottom right there. So it doesn't matter which way you do it, as long as they're all put together. So let's do another one. We have 2 on the outside like this and 1 like that. So there's our 3 pieces. Again, you can do these 2 first or the other 2 first. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to do these 2. Nest that middle seam. Sew all the way down. Just going to go ahead and finger press it to the right. And we're going to take this last one, right sides together, and you can see that this top piece is now going to end with that point right here. That top piece is going to match with that. The bottom's going to match with it, and the middle is going to nest. And then I'm just going to flip it and press it with my finger to the right. So there we have another one. So again, you can press to the right or left, it doesn't matter, because when we go to hook these together, they're going to be hooked together in rows. So this is going to end up on top of that, like this, in a row. So it doesn't matter which way the seam is, because the row's seam is going to go one way or the other, and they'll nest just right. So if you're pressing everything to the right, then when you hook them together, that next row down, when it comes this way, these seams will go to the right and these seams will go to the left, and all of these are going to nest because they are opposite of each other. So stick with whatever direction, whether you want to start with the left or you want to start with the right, as long as you're consistent through the whole entire thing. So all of my seams are now going to go to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in time lapse while I sew all of these together. The whole entire pile of all of these are going to get sewn together. Now that all the blocks are sewn together into half blocks, what we need to do is press them nicely. So I'm going to take and press these, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, now that all of our blocks are nice and pressed, we're going to take our blocks as well as our side pieces, and we're going to go over to our design wall or design table or design floor, or however you lay your blocks out. We're going to go do that. So I'm going to take you over to the fabric room floor, which is a nice big cozy space for me to lay this out and show you guys how it goes. Okay, so now that our blocks are pieced together, let's go to the design floor and lay them out. So I'm going to put these aside because it's comfortable. And we're going to go ahead and start laying these out. Okay, so now that we have it laid out, we need these pieces. They can be whatever ones you want to use out of all this. We're going to go ahead, and one is going to be on this end and another is going to be on this end. Okay, so what we're going to do is put one here, grab one of these and put it there. Then grab one of these and put it there, and one of these for here. Okay, we have two more. Let's do a green one up here, and let's put this one. Nope, not that one. This one here. We're going to swap that one out right there. There we go. Now let's go to the other side. Okay, this is what's left. There's our quilt. Now it's time to make the rows and sew them together. And again, this quilt will be turned. Right now it's just in this way so that you can see the whole entire thing laid out to know how it goes together. So these pieces, don't throw them away because we're going to make our extra project with these pieces. So now for the rows. A row is going to be this end piece to this, to that, to that. So we're going to pick up this one, place it on top of this one, on top of this one, on top of that one, and then on top of that little piece at the end. So now we're just going to take them over to the sewing area with row one on the bottom, just like that. I'm going to hold it, not going to flip it, turn it, or move it. We're just going to take it over there, and that's row one. Okay, now here at the sewing machine, we're going to sew our rows. So I stacked all of my pieces. They're right here. But I'm going to keep them next to me. And I'm going to grab my first piece and my second piece. And we're going to hook this to that. So we're just going to hook this up right here to the side. And the point is going to land right up here at the top. And this is going to stick out 1/4 inch at the bottom. So there's going to be a lot of turning back and forth. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press this to the right. So this whole row is going to go to the right. This is row 1. Okay, 2 pieces are together. We're going to connect the next piece right here. We're going to put those right sides together. This point up here is going to be touching this point right here. And this point down here is going to be touching the point that's sticking out down here. So let's line those up. I'm going to line these up and sew. 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, we're going to press this to the right. Just like that. I'm going to lay this out. We're going to grab that next piece. There's this one. And it's going to line up beyond the point, but match with this one. One right here. One right there. Again, I'm going to press that to the right. We're going to add that next one. There we go. We're going to line this up. And back, we're going to press this to the right. And then we're going to put our last and final piece, which is this one right here. We're going to line this up about 1/4 inch sticking over on the top. And this bottom is going to match the point down here. And we're going to sew that on. Nothing to line up, nothing to match, no seams to nest. Just like that. And we're going to press this to the right. So here is row 1. And I'm going to go stick this over on the ironing board because this is the bottom row. Because of the way I had it laid out on the floor and the way I picked it up. So I'm going to go ahead and do all the rows, and I'm going to put you in time lapse while I do that. And I'm also going to be pressing, this one goes to the right, the next one's going to go to the left, the next one's going to go to the right, and so on and so forth with the rows. Okay, so now all of my rows are here. They're right, left, right, left. This is the first row, or technically the top row. All these are going to the right, so I'm going to press them to the right. You're going to notice at the ends right here. Oh, that's not even in the camera. That's not even in the camera. On both ends, you're going to have a little bit of hangover. Some ends will be more than others, but just because of the way we cut it. We're going to go ahead and cut those off with a pair of scissors. And we're going to make that nice and straight, just like that. And we're going to go ahead and grab that other end and make that nice and straight. So this row is going to go to this row right here. So now I'm going to go ahead and press this one. All of them are going to the left, and these two are going to get attached. But for now, I'm going to place this one aside so that I can iron that one. Okay, so here is our first two rows. We are not going to match these by the end pieces because they're not exactly the same size. What we're actually going to do is match them by these pieces. So since this was going to the right and this was going to the right, when we put them right sides together, these two seams right here will nest, and you can feel them nesting. So all the way down, all these seams are going to nest, and everything is going to land where it's supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and start from this end right here, and I'm going to sew down, and I'm going to nest those seams. Now you can pin them if you would like. I'm not going to bother with the pinning. I'm just going to hold them in place because they're nested really nicely. All the seams are pressed opposite of each other. And then when the rows were connected, those were also pressed opposite of each other. So they will always nest. So there's no need to have an open seam if you don't want to. So let's go over to the machine, and we're going to sew down this side and nest it along the way. I'm just going to nest this first seam. I'm going to make sure that they're touching really good, and like I said, this is going to be longer or shorter, just depends on that cut originally. So there's the first one. I'm going to go ahead and hold the next nested seam. I'm going to sew right up to it, leave the needle down in it. I'm going to be nesting these two seams now because I have my first seam coming together right here. And we're going to have a couple of those. We may have to flip the seam, but that's okay. Stop in it, nest the next one. They are opposite of each other. The next one. The next one. And then when you open it up, you'll see you have your points. These will point together. These will point together. They're not going to be perfect, but they're there. This one is off a little bit, but I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to worry about it. That one is perfect, and that one is a little off, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and press this right or left. It doesn't really matter one way or the other, whatever way seems to lay the flattest. And then we're going to go on to the next two, which are going to go above this. So this is the direction I have it. Okay, on to the next two. Again, I'm going to do the same exact thing. Just going to line up the first seam, which is opposite of each other. They're going to nest. Then the next two, they're going to nest. Then we're going to have a piece right here that needs to nest. And then our big seam again. Then the next one. and so on and so forth. All right, last 2 rows, and then we're going to hook the 3 rows together. Okay, and here is our top for now. So this is for now. At this point, it is 44 by 52 and a half. You could add borders. I don't have any more of this fabric, so I'm not going to worry about borders. This is how big I want it. It's just a little lap quilt. So this is what it looks like. I am going to go ahead, like I usually do in my videos, and I'm going to quilt this up. Now, while this is getting quilted up, I'm going to show you how to make the bonus project. But before we get to that, I need to put this aside and press it really good. Okay, so now that you saved all those little pieces, it's time for a bonus project. So here are those pieces that we had cut originally, and I said set them aside. Well, we're going to make something with them, but we need to add one more thing. We need to add an accent fabric or something extra. Don't need much of it. Probably just a ½ yard shall do, and that's just guessing, but a ½ yard will be fine. So we're going to go ahead and make something with all the little extra pieces. So let's get to cutting some of this, and I will show you how to make your bonus project. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this fabric, my accent fabric or my yardage, whatever you have, into 1-inch strips. That's right, little tiny 1-inch strips. So I'm going to line this up and cut some very skinny strips, but that's okay. You should be able to work with them just the same as anything else. So let's cut, I don't know, like 6 of them. 6 1-inch strips for now. I may need 1 or 2 more. So there's 1. And I shall fast forward through the rest. Okay, so now that we have our 6, for now, 1-inch strips, we're going to go ahead and take both halves, and we're going to open up each strip, and we're going to sew 1 to this side and 1 to this side, just like that. So we're going to go ahead and attach a couple of these down one side of this direction, and then we're going to attach a couple of these to the opposite side, and I'll show you how to do that at the machine. Okay, here we are at the machine. We're going to take our long white strip right side up, and we're going to take this half right here, and we're going to attach them just like this. 1 strip like this, put it under, with a 1/4 inch. Then we're going to take that next one and I'm not butting them up, I'm just leaving a small gap between them, just like this. Just a small gap, probably like a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch. There's 2. Let's add another one, just leaving a small gap. Get another one, and just keep going until the whole strip is filled. With a 1/4 inch seam all the way down. So let me put this in fast forward while I sew all of these onto the white. Okay, now that they're all sewn, we're going to take a pair of scissors and we're going to snip them off of here. And don't worry about those extra strips. We are going to use those. We're just setting those aside for now. Okay, so we're going to snip them apart at the bottom of each, not the top, the bottom. So you'll have a piece that hangs over the top like this. That's fine, but it's flush with the bottom. We're going to go ahead and cut away at the bottom of the next one up. So just at the bottom of every single piece, cut away each piece. I have the shakes today, so it's making scissor cutting a little hard on me, but we're making it work. So at the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward while I cut these out. All right, once you have all these cut, we're going to go ahead and press them to the right, to the dark. Press them to the right. So just, you can finger press them or you can take it over to the iron and press them all towards the right. So I'm going to go ahead and take all these over to the iron and press them all to the right, and I'll meet you right back here at the machine. Somehow it stopped recording when I was showing you guys that we added, so we did the white strips all on one side, we trimmed them at the bottom, we lined up the second side. That way we have a piece that looks like this, and I lined it up with the bottom. And it's very important to line it up with the bottom and sew it through. All that footage, I was there for like 5 minutes, and that's what happens, right? So we're going to put the opposite side on. After you've got your white strips all on the one side, you're going to put your opposite side on, lining it up with the bottom so that you have a nice straight line, and the top is going to stick out funny. And when you're done, press it to the right. So everything is pressed to the right. We don't normally press towards light fabrics, but for this, we want everything pressed to the right. So now I'm going to go iron and hope that you guys understood that one side goes on one, the white strip in the middle, and the other side goes on the other, lining up the bottom, leaving the top having a little bit of hangover. So I'm sorry that that footage is now missing, gone forever, but it happens, and I'm glad I caught it while I was at this step. So now I'm going to go press these all, again, to the right. All right, here are our pieces and what they look like. So now you have the general idea, at least. I pieced all the one side, and then I added the second side after I snipped them all apart and I lined up that bottom. So these are the pieces that we have now. So now we have almost triangles again. Here is where our ruler, having this 60-degree triangle, comes in handy, because this has those center, let's see, this has those center lines down the center, just like that. And those are the lines that we're going to use to line up on here at the 8-inch mark, and right here you can see I'm going to line up the 8-inch mark on the bottom, center the line on my white line, and I'm going to go ahead and go, oh man, snippety snippety. This is what happens when there's a camera in the way. So I'm going to be very careful about my snippety snippety. All right. Right there. And right there. Okay. This is what we have after we get rid of the excess. So we're going to do that again, except this time I'm going to put this direction so that I can cut properly. I'll line up my 8-inch line across the bottom. I'm going to center my red lines of my triangle. I'm going to hold it nice and firm and cut away the excess. So there is another triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of these up by lining up that center on either side of the center of my white. I'm going to line it up on the 8-inch mark across the bottom, and if it's not straight, you could always take this straight edge right here, line it up, make it straight, then line your 8-inch on there, just like this. Some of them might get askewed just a smidge, so make sure you straighten it up. Just like that, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put you in fast forward while I cut all these up. Okay, they're all cut. I'm going to go ahead and stick my ruler aside, toss my rotary cutters out of the way, move my extra fabric, and we're ready to start laying this out. So the first thing we're going to do is build a hexagon with the whites all coming towards the lovely middle, just like this. Then we're going to do the same again on this other side. You can mix them around however you please. We're going to put one facing down in the center like that, but not that one or that one. How about this one? Sure. One like that. Then we're going to put one right here. And you'll have 4 left. So you can trade things around. Let's put that one there. Let's put this one here. Trade them around. I think I have way too much orange and yellow, so I'm going to pull some of this orange and yellow. Let's do maybe a one-sided orange and yellow like that. Definitely want the blue, so let's move that there. It's a lot of yellow in one spot right there. Let's put it there. There we go. Moving it all around. I want some more of this green. Let's pull this one out. Nope. There we go. Nope, not that one. Not that one. How about we have that next to that? And then this one next to that. And then this, not that, or that. However you would like to do it. I'm going to play around with it for a few minutes. There we go. Just like that. And you'll have 4 remaining pieces. If you want to swap those in, it just depends. We don't have to use them. They can just go with the scrap stuff. All right, so here is my layout. I think I'm good with it just like this. And we are going to piece this so simply. We're going to make that section of 3, hooking this to it, and then make the section of 3, hooking it together. So we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, add this, 4, 5, and 6. Technically there's 7. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's head to the machine and piece this together. So here are my first 2 pieces. Now the seams here are not going to nest. We're going to force them to nest because we do have them going the same direction now. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip the seam up, hold it, and then the whites should nest because they're all pressed to the right. So all the white should nest beautifully. All right, so there is the first 2. I'm going to go ahead and just finger press that to the right. We're going to grab that next piece. It's going to go right here. I'm going to do that same thing where I flip this seam right here, but let me start it first. And we're going to make sure that that is pressed to the right. And then this one right here should nest with that first seam with the blue because, again, it's opposite. And they're just going to lay right on top of each other. And I'm going to go ahead and press that to the right. So you have quite a bit of bulk building up, but that's okay. Those 3 are together. We're going to go ahead now and grab this next one that's going in this direction. There's nothing to nest in this one. We're just going to line up those 2 ends, just like this. And we're going to sew them the same as we did in the big quilt. Just going to come right up here to this end, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and press that to the right. Then we're going to take the next piece, which is right here. We're going to hook that in. Oops, this way. There's nothing to match, again, with this direction. It's when we add the next piece that there will be. So everything is going in, just like this. I'm going to go ahead and press that to the right. Okay. Now we're going to add our next piece, which is this one. We're going to go add that on there, nesting up these 2 white ones down here at the bottom. And we're also going to nest this up by flipping the seam and then holding this down here and press it to the right. Just like that. And then one more piece to add. Here's this one. We're going to line this up. We're going to flip this one seam right here. And we're going to hold that. Stop right there at that seam. I'm going to go ahead and nest this bottom. and sew right off. And press it to the right. And there we have our first row. So I'm going to put this over here, and I am going to do the second row, except I'm going to put that in fast forward. But before I put it in fast forward, this whole row is going to get pressed to the left. Okay? So we're going to do the same thing in fast forward, but to the left. Okay, now that both rows are pressed, finger pressed, we're going to take these over to the iron and press them, and then we're going to hook the two rows together. Now that the two rows are pressed, we're just going to put these right sides together. I'm going to line up my middle, so the seam is going to the right on one side, to the left on the other. Same with this end, to the right and to the left. I'm going to nest those up. I'm also going to be flipping these seams along the way. But let's go ahead and sew these two together. It's going to be bulky right here. It's going to be bulky. But guess what? That happens. So let's just go take this to the sewing machine and get it sewn. All right, here we are. I'm nesting my seams. I can feel them being nested. I'm going to go ahead and sew this end. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to flip this one seam. I'm going to nest this, holding everything together. I'm going to go slowly over it. I'm going to nest this one right here by flipping one side. We're going to go ahead and nest these two. They're opposite of each other. I'm going to go ahead and flip this one. And again, these. So they're going opposite directions. It's a lot of seams, but you could press them open if you want. Pressing, honestly, is totally up to you. I just figured one direction, and it should be fine. So let's open this up and look. They all come together beautifully. It's a little thick right there, but not too much. My last one was just the same. So, yep, it's a nice little thickness, but they meet up perfectly. This one kind of lost its end, but that's okay. And this one, it sits where it's supposed to, but that I don't mind. This all comes together beautifully, so now I'm just going to go ahead and press it, and I'll meet you back at the cutting table. Okay, here we are back at the cutting table. There is the top to our little side project, which is a table runner, obviously. All right, here's those extra 1-inch strips. We are actually going to sew those on top, bottom, and then the two sides. So we're going to go ahead and put one across the top, one across the bottom, right sides together. So what I'm going to do is we might have to cut one more piece, by the way, but that's it. So I'm just going to line it up right here. I'm just going to stick it up just a little bit so that the selvage isn't in the way. Sew it down this side, and then we're going to sew another one on the other side, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so with them pressed back towards the white, we're going to go ahead now, and we're going to cut away the excess on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a straight ruler and a rotary cutter, and I'm just going to line this up on the edge right here along the edge, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it right there. And then I'm going to do the same with this edge up here at that 60-degree angle, and then I'm going to turn it around and do this side. So I'm going to go ahead and hold this down right here, make that cut. Those two cutoffs are going to be used right now. And then we're going to cut one more strip. So one of these is going to go here, another one is going to go on that side, and we're going to go ahead and cut one more strip. Okay, I have my one more strip. Again, I'm going to sew one here. I'm just going to sew it on there, press it back, trim it, sew it on here, press it back, trim it, and do the same on the opposite side. And then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, here is so far. Now let's work with these pieces, because we're going to put these the rest of the way around. But first, we need to trim them all the same size. So let's move this out of the way, move everything out of the way, and we're going to find not that one, all the ones that are pretty large and look to be at least 1.5 inches. We're just going to pull them all out. That definitely don't look 1.5. That one don't either. That one definitely don't. That does. That does. If you don't know, just check. It's close, but no cookie. We're just going to take all the ones that look like they're about 1.5. Again, another one of those little thin ones. And we're going to trim all these down to 1.5. And then these, we're going to pull off the small ones. So we're going to go ahead to the iron and a seam ripper. We're going to pull these off like this. Just grab a seam ripper, and they should rip right off. I'm going to go to the iron and re-flatten them back out, because I can get 1.5 from these pieces, but I can't from these little tiny guys. So we're going to go ahead, snip those away, and make sure, well, that's almost 1.5. That one's cutting it too close. We're just going to go ahead and snip them apart, and then I'm going to press them, and then we're going to do some magic. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in fast forward while I complete all this. Now that they are all 1.5, we're going to hook them end to end to end, end to end to end to end. And we're going to do that whole, everything, end to end, all of them, and mix them up as best as we can. But we're going to hook them all end to end now. So let's go to the machine and do that. Here we are at the machine, and when I say end to end, we're just going to go ahead and take these one right after the other into 2s, into 4s, into 6s. However you want to sew all these, that's what we're going to do. Sew them all end to end. So I'm going to fast forward you while I do this. Okay, last and final step of this project, and I didn't have enough of this as I had with my first one that I did, so I'm going to be very, very cautious with how much I use of this and how I use it, because I didn't have enough like I did with my first one. So I'm going to start on this side, and I'm going to go down here, and then I'm going to cut and come down, and then I'm going to cut and come down. There should be enough to go all the way around, but like I said, I didn't have as much with this one as I had with my first. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this around, and I'll show you in fast forward how I'm doing it. The only thing left to do now is trim. And then our little project will be complete. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off the sides. And there we have it. Now I just need to quilt both the first project and this second project. So I will be right back to show you what they look like after I quilt them. Okay, friends, so we have finished. The bonus project right here has turned out 17.5 by 37. This one is smaller than my original example, in the blue fabrics. That is because when I did the blue fabrics, I did a 2-inch border of the white before I added the next color. The big quilt, the main one, turned out 44 by 55, which is the same as the original. Again, one fat quarter bundle, a 12-piece fat quarter bundle, or if you want to make it bigger, you just need a little bit more, or you can use a 24-piece fat 1/8 bundle, because that's the same thing as a fat quarter bundle, or you can use more fabrics to have a bigger quilt and a bigger excess quilt. It's all up to you. You can add more or add less and just do a tiny little baby one. It's all on you. I gave you all the directions in today's video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let's take a look at these all by themselves. And that's it. That's all I got for you. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.